Okay, it is 7 o'clock, and I will go ahead and get us started with our Pewaukee School District Board meeting, Monday, June 23rd. I'll start with roll call. Mary?
Here.
Larry?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
Stacy?
Here.
And myself. Was the meeting properly noticed?
The meeting was properly noticed.
And can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Question on the agenda.
Yes.
Part B of the closed session. Could you clarify why that part of it is closed session?
Those are all statutory references to items that can be discussed in closed session. We'll come back out into open session to take action, but if there's any discussion on compensation for each of those employee groups, we have historically always had the opportunity for a closed session discussion with the board.
As I read B, it's a discussion of the framework? Okay, so
It's a discussion of the raises for those employee groups.
Teacher compensation.
I thought that was part C.
That includes, Part C is really used to capture, make sure I look at the right letter.
Custodian,
The other
food
employee
services,
groups will
nurses,
also
things like
discuss.
that.
So part B is not a discussion of the framework, it's a discussion of individual teachers?
Correct. We will in our discussions reference the framework, but it is about the compensation for teachers is one of the employee groups we'll be discussing.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't think you voted.
We didn't vote, you're right. Well, I did. I said all in favor.
There was a
Any
question. Yep.
And none opposed.
Abstain.
Abstain, okay, thank you.
Okay.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to head right into salutes and recognitions. And I'm going to start out. I wasn't at the last board meeting, and this might seem kind of late, but I want to call out and recognize and say a hearty thank you to Stacy Newcomer for helping me with the diplomas at the Pewaukee High School graduation. You wouldn't think it, but it's not always an easy job. And I just wanted to say thank you, Stacy, and call you up for that.
Thank you.
Does anyone else on the board have any salutes?
Well, it'd be kind of remiss if we don't recognize the girls soccer team made it to the state tournament this year, and unfortunately they lost in the final round to Brookfield Central. But it was a very, very good game, and obviously first time in history for the Pewaukee girls to make it to the state tournament. So that was an accomplishment in and of itself as well. So to the coach, to the team, they did a good job out there. So.
Nothing to be ashamed of with a silver ball. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, impressive. First time in school history.
Right.
First time in a continuation of an incredible run of teams making into state championship play. So.
Yeah.
So I have one. I debated now or when we vote on retirements. Sarah Gull is retiring. I've known Sarah for 43 years. If you do the math, yes, we met at birth. We were really good. No, but I've known Sarah for 43 years, and of course she's a very special person to me, but I think she's been a very special person in this district. Mm-hmm. And the things that she's done and led in our library program, I remember one of the first times I talked to her, her goal was to get a book in every child's hand that wanted one. Because she talked about, we have these rules, if they have too many books checked out, they can't have them. But she never wanted to be bound by rules like that would prevent a child from having a book that they wanted to read. And I just think that the work here that she's done is exemplary, and it's been a gift to this district. And so I'm tempted to vote no for the retirement. But as her friend, I'm super happy for her that she gets to be with Pete in retirement and enjoy the next phase of her life. But I just wanted to give her a huge salute for the work that she's done in this district.
Stacy, I'm going to second that because I've done a lot of volunteering at Horizon, but most specifically in the library and working with Sarah. And she really is a treasure. And, you know, she's just an example of someone that just always puts kids first and loves what she does. So I too will really miss her contributions here in the district.
Yep.
Any other board members with salutes? Admin?
You guys have any?
Yep, I have, and Tammy, I'll send you the names because there are 20 of them. I'm not going to read them all, but as part of some of the improvement processes we have made to the curriculum renewal process, we are doing something different. Once a summer, the groups that are in phase 2 of curriculum renewal, we're doing a standards review academy. So I had 20 math teachers, instructional coaches, and it was a full day of us diving into the updated math standards. We did some vertical aligning. We did some gap analysis against the Wisconsin Forward and the ACT. It was just a great day. Academic standards aren't everyone's cup of tea, but everyone was super engaged, and it was a really nice day, and I think a great addition to our curriculum renewal process.
Anthony took 20, so I think maybe we're at our quota. I don't have any. No, John does either.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Comments from citizens. Tammy? Thank you. Next, consent agenda, and that includes minutes from previous meetings. Correspondence included in your packet. No gifts at this time, and also policies for technology, acceptable use policy, graduation requirements, purchasing and bidding, high school alternate education, and release of public records and property. So if I could get a
So
motion.
moved. Approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to old business. We've already discussed the CISA 1 contract for the 25-26 school year. We've got Tony here tonight. I'm wondering if there's...
Yeah, come on down, Tony, see if there's any questions. Last time you'll recall, we had identified some things that weren't totally correct with the contract, so we tabled. The board took an action at the last meeting to table it to this meeting. And then Tony followed up with CISA 1 to make sure that it was reflecting the services that we wanted. And so that's, and it's, with a contract like this, it's necessary for the board to take action to approve. So Tony, I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Yeah, no, CISA, we've worked with them for a really long time. I very much so enjoy the collaboration and the partnership. They support us with leadership coaching, personalized learning. We're contracting for deaf and blind, or the blind and visually impaired. We have a number of services. We also have seats at Learning Center West for students that through either the IEP process or disciplinary matters need to be outplaced. So it's been a fabulous partnership. They were very responsive when I looked at the contract and talked to them about the survey. Sue called me on my cell phone, so they're a great team of professionals over there, and I greatly appreciate their offerings. Just the ability for our educators and leaders to be able to network with other southeastern Wisconsin school districts is invaluable, because good ideas come from anyone, anywhere, and anytime. And it's imperative that we continue to learn and grow our skills to best service our students. Does anyone have any questions about any specific line items that you would like me to address?
Tony, could you refresh me? What is the amount of the contract?
The amount, each of the subcategories have a specific value. It's slightly over $70,000
In total or each separate?
in total.
Thank you.
And they're all itemized on the memo. So each service comes with a specific costing.
Mayor, I can give you the exact number.
you.
$74,623.64.
Does every CISA do this? Same, I think there's 12. Are they all structured to be the same?
So there's CISAs based on region. So
Right.
there's CISA 1, 2, 3, all the way through 6. And most school districts contract with CISA for some level of service delivery, just because there are instances where you're not big enough to provide all your own professional development, or you need seats to outplace students, which is something that happens in every school district. So CISAs offer services. School districts are afforded an opportunity to contract for said services, and oftentimes it ends up saving us money because, case in point, for our visually impaired and orientation and mobility, we don't have enough students to even hire a 0.2 of a staff member. And the other struggle where it comes in very advantageous is they can offer programmings that one or two students might be able to participate. You wouldn't be able to staff the program at the same costing that we're paying CISA 1. So it's an invaluable resource.
Do you know where one can get the materials for what they actually purchase, their budget?
For what they purchase the budget?
Yeah.
I can share
Kind of
the
a black hole to me.
services catalog with you of all the variety of different services, if that would be helpful.
No, their IE report and their budget annually. Who oversees, I understand that we oversee them. Every board that signs on with them, so we are the oversight of that body, which otherwise has no other public oversight. And so what I'm asking is the budget and their IE reports. I've asked for them last year, and I've attended a meeting there, and doggone, couldn't find a single bit of information along those lines.
We don't have their budget that would be requested. I'd have to go to them.
I did. So I'm asking, Tony, if you know, who has that? Am I incorrect in the oversight function?
So we don't oversee, we contract for services. They oversee their own staffing and evaluate their own staff.
I don't mean that kind of oversight, Tony, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Public oversight. It's an entity like this school is. It's got its own administration.
Oh, sure. So
Who oversees, I mean, we're paying them, so.
Yeah, so CISA 1 is very much like the Pewaukee School District. They have an executive director, which in the Pewaukee School District, it's our senior leadership led by Dr. Katie. CISA 1's led by Sue Doyle. She's their executive. They have a board that oversees their entire operation. Every CISA has an independent board, and they're board members that have to approve budgets and have to figure out costings and things of that nature.
Right, and I've sat in, I think, Larry, you're on that board, right?
Yes, I am.
That's the board, okay.
Yeah.
But I was not able to get a budget out of it, and I assume you're on the board as an oversight function. We voted you in for that purpose.
Yes.
Okay.
And last year when you asked about it, Mary, I specifically pointed out to you that I didn't think it was fair or reasonable for me to release that information to you. I directed you to Sue Doyle, and she's the executive director. If you want to see that information, just like if you wanted to see anything here in the Pewaukee School District, you go to that person and you ask them if they would share that with you or if it's available for you to review.
Well,
I mean,
isn't that an open record?
What's that?
Isn't that an open record?
You have to go ask them for it. I mean, I don't have access.
How many people do I have to ask? You're a board member, why wouldn't I get it from you?
The executive director, just like here, Mike Katie is the person who oversees the release of information. I mean, so in my case, it's like I'm suggesting that if you want to see it, go talk to Sue Doyle. I mean, I gave you her phone number. Her address is on the information I sent to you as well. So, I mean, it's up to you to go get that.
I understand that.
information
You're
if you want.
sending, just so I'm clear, you're sending me to an employee that we're overseeing, and you're on that board and you're part of the
She's the
oversight.
executive director. She's the
Right, why
person
don't
who-
you have access to it?
What's that?
Why don't you have access to it?
Mary, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I told you that it's not my role to release that information to you. You have to go to the executive director, Sue Doyle, and I can give you her phone number and contact information and send it to you again, so.
So if a member of the public wants that information, they know you're on that board, they come to you, you're gonna send them elsewhere?
And some of it's a little bit different. I mean, they are not publicly taxpayer funded. They get no taxpayer money at all
I thought we pay them.
through a contract. Through the
Right,
school
well,
district.
we're dealing with taxpayer money here, so, whatever you have, Tony, I wasn't able to get it. I don't know how many times I have to request it. It's not posted online, there's no sense of what those monies are, so whatever you can do, but thank you, Larry.
Sure. Anybody else have any other questions?
one question though. So the new pathways, there's $48,000 there, there's 4 students. Are those 4 students already been identified and pre-planned to attend there, or is it just a holding?
3 students have been identified. We have 1 open seat in case we need it. The one really nice thing about New Pathways is oftentimes you encounter some high school students that are credit deficient. They're second semester senior, their first semester senior. For 1 seat, you could have 2 to 3 different students go in and out of that seat because they're there to gain the credit. They gain their credits that they need, and then they're done. We're encountering challenges with some of our students that have severe anxiety by attending a larger school with a lot of kids. That environment is 15 kids ordinarily. They have a morning and an afternoon session, so it's been really advantageous for us. And we've had a number of kids with IEPs also graduate from there, and they're really closely connected to WCTC and the trades, and they do some really good work, and the staff are great. So it's been very advantageous. And the reason I highlight the seat thing, because ordinarily when you pay for a seat, it's designated to a specific student and you just can't put another student in there. And most programs, when a student is a tuition-based student, they're going to be there for the long term. So that's one of the unique circumstances about New Pathways. And one of the other great luxuries about having CISA 1 in Pewaukee is we can utilize our transportation to drop kids off. It's been very accommodating and nice. Ordinarily, transport is one of the larger costings right now. It's very expensive to transport kids. So having them right in the backyard for tuition-based kids to support some of our other student needs and our professional development needs has been invaluable because they're really close.
And Mary, to follow up, I will contact Sue Doyle and have her reach out and contact you, since that seems like it may be a best way to have you get your questions answered. So she's the official executive director, so I will send her your contact information to her, and then I'll put the burden on her to contact you. So.
Yeah, and Mary, I've known Sue since 2007. She will get back to you and do a really nice job in talking with you.
Thank you.
No problem. And feel free to email me with any questions about this contract after tonight, and greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, I move to approve the CISA number 1 contract for the 25-26 school year as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
All right, moving on to new business. We have the student, parent, and employee engagement survey results, and I believe Candace
Yes.
is joining us.
Yep, she's zooming in. So just to kind of give some background as we're pulling her up on the screens. Candace, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, great. So, if you go back to February when we met, the direction from the board was kind of presentation-wise, less is more, that you wanted kind of shorter, tighter presentations, more high level to provide detail so that you can go deeper into it if you wanted to. So that was, you were provided more detailed summaries with specific data for each of the surveys. So we have multiple climate surveys, we have parent, we have staff, and we have students. So you receive those executive summaries, the analysis that Candace provided. So she's going to kind of, again, go through those bullets from those surveys, and we are here for any questions that you may have. But, so, and please give us feedback. We're trying to see if this is more in line with what the board is looking for in these presentations. So, with that, Candace, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So we're, as Mike said, here to talk about and go over briefly the 24-25 engagement surveys that went out to students, parents, and staff. For the overall engagement, just looking at the percent of parents, students, and staff in tier 1 or 2, those are in each category and overall. The aggregation of the percent of students, parents, or staff that are responding agree or strongly agree to most of the questions. What it is it's an index that adds all of their scores up and then breaks it down into the tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4 that was outlined in the description. So students have the least percent of respondents in tier 1 or 2 with 37.5%, and parents have the most respondents in tier 1 or 2. So students kind of the least satisfied with school in general, and parents the most satisfied. And then staff coming in right beneath parents, 69.8 in fall and 60.6 in spring, which is very typical with past results. This is the first year of these new surveys, but in the past we've seen frequently fall staff members are a bit happier, spring a little bit less happy. For the student engagement survey, looking at areas of success were interactions with school staff, their own ability to problem solve, and their own ability to be involved in sports, clubs, and extracurricular activities. Some opportunities for improvement from students' perspective are their interactions with other students, learning goals, and personal choice in learning. Parent engagement, some areas of success are interactions with school staff, student recognition, and student learning about interaction with others. Opportunities for improvement from a parent's perspective are student academic progress updates, student learning goals, and student participation in sports, clubs, and extracurricular activities. And then staff engagement, areas of success, interactions with their supervisor, professional goals, and opportunities for creativity. Some opportunities for improvement from a staff's perspective are staff recognition, performance updates, and their professional interests being connected to their professional learning opportunities. So are there any questions?
Is there any thought on student opportunities for improvement? The parent engagement was student participation in sports, clubs, but for students, it was this area of success.
Yeah, so from the student engagement perspective, they focused on the opportunities, whereas from the parents' perspective, they did potentially agree that there are opportunities, but their students are not actually participating in those opportunities. And so that's kind of where the line is drawn. And with students, we do ask the same question about their actual participation, and that is not an area for improvement, but also not an area of success either.
Candace, under the student engagement, two of the areas for opportunity are learning goals and personal choice in learning. Can you expound on that a little more to explain specifically what the questions were in regards to those areas?
Yeah, so there are 3 questions on learning goals. And the first question asks students whether they create learning goals with their teachers. The second one is whether they track their learning goals with their teachers. And then the third one is whether their learning goal motivates them to learn. And in general, it is that the tracking and the motivation to learn are not as strong. Students do say that they set learning goals with their teachers. It's more so the struggling with a little bit of that tracking or follow through from a student's perspective, and whether they feel motivated to learn from that goal. The personal choice in learning was a specific question that asks students if their teacher let them choose the way they got to learn something. And so the examples were you could learn something in a group, collaboratively as a group project, independently, reading a book about it, learning online about it, and they did not feel that they got to choose the opportunities from their perspective.
Thank you.
Can I ask a couple follow-up questions too? So when was this survey actually administered?
Which one?
Well, yeah, all three of them essentially, so. Are they timed?
So,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
So the staff survey is administered in November and then April. They take it twice a year. The parent and student surveys are administered in January. The student survey does typically trickle over from mid-January to about mid-February. Just with the end of the semester in there. Sometimes it's an ideal time, sometimes it's not an ideal time, but it's about a month right there, right in the mid-year.
The other question which is out there, and I know you have the percentages listed, but do you have the actual number of participants in the survey? I mean, the students could be very large, staff not as large, parents could be potentially very large.
Yeah, so in the summaries, in the detailed summaries, they do list all of the responses. So the student climate survey had 1,818 students. The parent climate survey had 560 responses. And then the staff spring survey had 228 responses.
Okay. The other
The other
question that I
question that I
had was
had was
relative
relative
to,
to,
this is the
this is the
parent
parent
engagement
engagement
pilot.
pilot.
One of
One of
those
theirs
opportunities for
opportunities for
improvement
improvement
was the
was the
student
student
academic
academic
progress
progress
updates, and
updates.
sort
And
of the
sort of
same
the same
question
Mhm.
that Brent
Brent
had.
had.
What, do you have
Do you have a sense of what that is?
And
And
for the
for the
administrative group
administrative
here,
group here,
what are we doing
about
about
these
these opportunities
opportunities
for
for
improvement?
improvement?
So the exact wording of it, where to go? It is along the lines of, I'm informed of my child's academic progress on a regular basis. Yep, that is it verbatim. And then I would say, I know Mike and Anthony have been working on different components with the principals. The high school has done some different emailing home in consortium with the students. Beyond that, I believe there's different things going on, but I would think they might be able to answer more details.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Anthony, jump in here, but, so
So
it's an ongoing, right, grading, how we report grades, parent access, online access to grade books, all those kinds of things are different strategies. Like Candace mentioned the high school, Brian said that, an improvement effort the last, really 2 years, I think it's been at least 2 years. Where he's really trying to have the students take more ownership and do regular email home with, hey, mom and dad, here's how I'm doing it across my classes, and that's monitored by teachers. I think those are parents as partners, I believe. So that's an example. Trying different things with parent-teacher conferences. There's varied times. There's opportunities during the day. There's opportunities in the evening. There's opportunities to come in on a video call for your conference versus having to come to school. So there's a variety of things that are done. Anthony, jump in.
Yeah, and having been involved in the survey as a building administrator, and looking at the data, I think as students get older, parents don't have that frequent communication like they did when their younger child had just one teacher. So really looking at strategies to help push communication to parents regarding how students are doing. I mean, all parents have, like Mike said, all parents have the ability to log into Skyward at any point in time and see exactly how their student is doing. But I think in looking at the survey, I think they appreciate being pushed to them as opposed to them having to go access it. So, like Mike said, the high school has been working on that weekly strategy where students in cooperation with their teachers will then push that out to their parents.
Anthony, when we look at engagement from our parents when it comes to parent-teacher conferences, can you guesstimate a percentage of how many parents actively engage and pursue a parent-teacher conference?
I can't say that if you go sixth grade up through the high school, sixth grade very high. Probably between 90 and 100% participation on the part of parents. As you go by year to year up in high school, that parent participation and parent-teacher conferences goes down
Considerably.
Yep.
Question on the teacher part of the staff survey. Do we know what the percentage is, or do we ask the breakdown of their time between administrative functions and teaching functions?
I'm going to comment on that, Candace. Is there anything in there?
Could you rephrase it? I didn't quite catch it on the sound.
So if you're a teacher, the question would be, how much time do you spend on admin versus teaching?
We do not ask any questions about that breakdown. It is something we could look into as far as their time breakdown.
Correct. That might
But
be helpful,
we've
trying to figure out why they
focused on
can't
their
read.
engagement.
Yeah, that'd be good, thank you. If that's doable, Mike?
Yeah, we can, it is, we used to use another vendor's survey, because then we had some benchmarking, but now we've stopped that, and we do our own, so we can ask whatever questions we would like. The only thing I think is close to that, Mary, I think there's stuff there about number of initiatives, we get into some of those if they have voice into kind of their work and directing some of their own. So there's some things that are kind of, I think, on the fringes of that, Mary, but you're right, we don't ask that.
Right, direct, I mean, it's exact split. How much you're doing in admin has nothing to do with what you're teaching and how much are you teaching. Last question, do I understand that the program you guys piloted 2 years ago with the email students of high schools sending their parents little notices of their progress every Friday, that's now full blown?
That's been part of regular practice this whole year.
Right, it was piloted.
I believe they started last year.
Right, and there was I think Brian was gonna come back and
Yeah, I can have Brian.
let us know how, to what benefit that is. What benefit is that in your,
I can tell you as a parent as well, I've had, it definitely increased the information that I had. I liked that my kid had to, students can be just kind of passive about it, right? There can be feedback about them, right? You got the kind of the triangle parent, the student, and the teacher. You can just go back and forth with the parent and the teacher, and the student can be fairly passive. Now this requires, what I like about it is it requires the student to kind of own, understand, think about, and communicate their own progress. So from a learning standpoint, from a responsibility standpoint, I think there's some advantages to that. And again, it's really about them, so they should be taking some ownership for it. So I think there's some definite positives with the approach.
does anybody ever speak of coddling? These are high schoolers, right? These are
High schoolers.
you don't go through this with high school. Okay, so does anybody think about coddling?
Not sure I'm following. Yeah.
I mean, these are 16-year-olds and they're being asked to send little emails to their parents. This was the feedback I got first put it in. And that's the only thing I ever heard was, what are they doing? I don't need to hear this from my child.
And I don't want to speak.
And so the question of coddling was part of that dialogue.
And I don't want to speak for Brian.
Yeah.
We can absolutely do an update, but I think that the putting this in place was a direct response from survey results that parents didn't feel like they were updated enough on their child's progress. When in actuality, the document is pushed out by the student to the parent. There is some other information that students share on there to know how they're doing anecdotally. But like from a grade standpoint, all of that information already exists in Skyward. Parents have access to 24/7. So I think that Brian's intent was to better meet the needs of the parents and what the survey results were saying.
So I suppose this question could be, the same question could be put to the students. How much time are they spending on admin stuff versus learning? So as I understood from the parent who was not pleased with this, was a physics student, so you're doing it in the physics class.
Yeah, they do it once.
And you do it in every class.
Once a week for every class.
So that by the time you're done, you're talking about a half hour. And if a student's got a full academic load, that's a precious 30 minutes.
I don't think it takes a half hour.
Well, that was what this parent saw coming through in terms of the time that was spent, that the parent, the teacher, the student is saying, I have to compile this, I have to pose this, I have to make sure it's not gonna be something my parents can yell at me, so it took time. So that was that parent's question, and then Lord Cotlin came in, and so, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I would estimate the actual times are more like 5 or 10 minutes on a Friday.
I couldn't do it.
Well, I can tell you from what I
7 classes, no way.
From what I can tell you I received, those were pretty quick messages from information that was readily accessible to the student. Here's how I'm doing in econ in that class, was probably a minute or two, maybe 3-4 minutes in that class, and they have 3-4 classes in a day. So I'm just trying to give you my perspective. From my perspective, what I saw, I think it would have been closer to maybe 10 or 15.
And thank you for the reminder, they do not have 7 classes. Four max.
They have 4 max in a day, every other day. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Can I ask, is this format, so kind of this approach is more designed for what your questions are, giving you more detailed background information, materials, shorter presentations, are we more in line with kind of what you're looking for with some of the data presentations, more detail, just looking to make sure we're providing the board with, because a lot of the detail, of course, are in the attachments.
I just had one other question, sorry.
Yep.
Getting distracted. Candace, staff recognition was an area for improvement, and I know they did the survey before the Open Door Awards. Did you feel like you had any specific comments that might have addressed what they were talking about?
So for staff recognition, this did take place, I believe, right after the open door announcements were made. And staff focused on wanting their recognition to be different, or potentially sometimes it's not enough for some staff, others it's not being done in a way that they would like it to be done.
And I would say, candidly, that some staff didn't like, some staff had a negative reaction to the Open Door Awards because they felt it, there was some, and again, this is some comments, a lot of people surveyed, some commented, they felt that the same people get recognized, I work hard to, which of course, we had some discussion with my student advisory. As they were just sharing, some staff members said that it might create competition between staff members when you have a teacher of the year and a building of those things. And I shared, well, it's difficult because, and of course, we appreciate everybody. Said everybody to me is appreciation. Recognition means someone's getting, right? And we either are recognizing somebody or we're not really recognizing anybody. It's just generalized, kind of thank you kind of stuff. But maybe there's takeaways that we can have from that. I know we generally model this off of the Elmville School District with their excellence awards, and I know Christy Johnson worked there, and she said it was a little bit like that first year. But then as it became normalized, there was less of that. So it's one of those things. I think we know that the event was very well received. People that got recognized seemed very grateful for that. But you do something new. You got to be open to what might be the unintended impact as well. So there was a little bit of negativity on that.
Okay, thank you.
Another question, Candace, under staff opportunities for improvement was listed performance updates, and I was just curious if Mike, if you or Anthony could speak to, are there various times throughout the year that we specifically review our staff, or how many times a year do we make a point to sit down with them and say, here's where you're doing great, but here's where we need to improve?
Yeah, that happens regularly throughout the year. All of our staff members have the opportunity to have a beginning of the year meeting with whoever their evaluator is. They have a mid-year meeting, and then they have a meeting at the end of the year.
And I would say our building admins go above what the state requirements are, and one of the reasons that they do is because our compensation model is driven by evaluation, because it's performance-based in that way. The state doesn't require the number of lesson observations that our principals do. They do a minimum of 3, right, Anthony, every year of lesson observations. So think about there's three evaluation meetings during the year, and there's at least 3 lesson observations. So just there with every single teacher, those 6 touches, in addition to other forms of feedback. It's just difficult. I think evaluation is challenging. Evaluation and feedback, no one really loves it unless they're just here to grade. Some people, certainly, and many like to want to do well and get better. But that is an item we can go back as long as we've been surveying, and that feedback piece is always a challenging one to get really positive results. I think we work on how we go about doing feedback and evaluation probably every year. Anthony's done some really good things. We're trying to streamline it. I think our principals are really very good about being on top of it. It's a huge lift. All of the lesson observation they have to do with the size of their staffs. And the schedule they have to keep to get 3 for every one of those teachers is a challenge, but they do a really good job with it. But that is But it's, feedback is really important, because, we have a high standard for performance, and we gotta be able to monitor it and get good feedback, so.
Yeah, and there are two frameworks that the state of Wisconsin requires school districts to utilize. There's the strong model out of CISA 6 and the Danielson framework. I would say the majority of schools use the Danielson framework. And in August, they updated their rubrics. I would say that communication, we didn't find out about it until 2 weeks before school. So there was a change in rubrics and how teachers are evaluated. So this has been a big year to really look at that process and make sure that we are where we need to be with regards to what the requirements are, and at the same time providing some level of flexibility for our staff and our administrators.
And just some feedback on the format. I can only speak for myself. I do like this format. I think that sometimes to sit here and go through every little item of detail with Candace in the meeting can feel overwhelming, like deer in the headlights. But when I get it ahead of time and I can peruse through it and just research it on my own, ask questions if I have any. I like this kind of high-level overview that Candace is giving us versus all the detail right here and now in this meeting, personally, for me.
Well, that's what we want to do. We want to give you the information that you feel you need as board members to exercise. So. But if there are things that tweaks again, we're open to. Candace is open to making sure she does things that are most beneficial for all of you as board members, and so just let us know if there's other things you'd like to see.
All right. Any other questions for Candace? Thank you so much, Candace, for all your time and efforts in this and your presentation tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you. Okay, moving on along. Property insurance renewal consideration. John.
So at the last meeting, we discussed the insurance renewals, and initially we had the property insurance along with all of our liability coverages for the district for the year. At that point, we tabled the property coverage. Basically, the incumbent carrier came through with proposals that significantly increased our exposure to risk. It increased deductibles and cost exposure for especially wind and hail for damages that would occur from that. So we went back out to market. When you go out to market, we assign to different brokers different lines. So we don't want to have two different brokerage houses going to all the same carriers and having them bid against themselves. So we assign them to the markets. We assigned 3 markets to M3, and I believe there were 3 to Gallagher, the incumbent broker on this. And M3 came out ahead with a policy that we're recommending for our property insurance and our equipment breakdown tonight with the Hartford. M3 was, up to about 5 years ago, they were the carrier for all of our property coverage, also the broker that oversaw that. We're also recommending on our crime policy, the policy that was proposed with Hanover for coverage for the district for next year. Total policy on the quotes that we have is $185,762 with M3. Ultimately, that number will come in a little bit lower than that as we resolve some of the valuations, because it's all based on a rate per value that you have when it comes to the property policy. And also some of the coverages that were proposed with Hanover were in excess of what we have right now. So we're bringing them to what we feel is the appropriate level of coverage on that crime policy. So it'll bring those down a little bit. The action that is proposed tonight is for the proposal, at that proposal level. When we see the final invoices, they'll be slightly lower than that. Any questions?
John, what's the deductible?
Deductible is $25,000 for all of our property losses that are out there. There's several different deductibles depending on what it is. Crime has sub-limits or deductibles on different areas. The primary deductible on the property policy is $25,000.
What's the wind?
The wind hail is $100,000 on the damage. It was $25,000. It was proposed to go up to $250,000.
That's for all buildings
Correct,
or incident?
correct.
Thank you. That's pretty good. 100,000
Yep,
as the deductible.
yep.
Were they coming in with a percentage?
They were both a percentage and we're starting to see this in everything. When you see it in your homeowner's insurance, now you're seeing a percent of value that is
Right.
assigned to the roof. So if you
Right.
have a 20-year-old roof, you're not gonna get a full replacement on it when you get renewals on your policies. And that same is hitting the schools market right now. A hailstorm on a 30-year-old roof isn't gonna get you a brand new roof or the full cost of it anymore. And we were able to maintain our coverage just with the change in deductible with that replacement cost moving forward.
The percentage, as the deductible, you did not have to deal with
Right.
that,
Right.
which is, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the insurance renewal with M3 per the attached summary of coverage proposed in the amount of $185,000, $185,762.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Next, I'm going to let Mike speak to the SWSA Alliance agreement for this next school year.
Thanks, Brent. So the Southeast Wisconsin Schools Alliance, it's a consortium of currently 28 school districts. We have 2 more that I understand are joining, Burlington, and I believe it's one of the maybe Heartland feeder school systems, I think, is joining as well that aren't currently members, so it may be up to 30. Pewaukee School District's been a member of this since the 2005-2006 school year. Purpose of this is to have a greater voice in terms of advocacy for issues that affect the Pewaukee School District, that affect Southeast Wisconsin public education. One of the primary benefits is SWSA employs a lobbyist that works on our behalf at the state capitol, working with our legislators in the governor's office to advocate for issues relative to public K-12 education. So we've been very active. Larry's been a past co-chair and member of the executive committee. I'm the current co-chair. John's been very active. What is really, I think, special and unique about SWSA versus some other organizations, it's the only one that includes superintendents, board members, and business managers that are regular attendees and participants in the meetings. So I think it brings really important perspectives. Whereas if you have WASDA, which is just superintendents, or you have WASB, which is just school board members, or those things, this brings some different perspectives to the table. So each year, the board has reviews and takes action to renew our membership. That membership for next year is $3,700. It went up, I believe, $500 as costs go up. And there have been a loss of some. I think at one point there was maybe 35, 36 school systems that were members. So there's been a little bit of attrition with some of the membership, and costs do increase. So I think it had been 6 or 7 years or so since any increase to the membership dues were part of that. Most of those funds go for the lobbyist and to pay the executive director, Kathy Oleg, who is the one that runs the organization. So, I don't know if Larry, if you wanted to add anything, or John, but otherwise I'd take questions and see.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things. One, obviously the amount has gone up, and it's really probably the first time in 15 years that we've actually raised the rates in terms of for that particular organization. The other part of it is, I mean, we get value out of it in the context of that we have the lobbyist, we have access to Kathy, who's our executive director, and she's able to help coordinate and pull together documents or presenters or information relative to any positions that we support. She also stays very connected with all of the other organizations in the state, so WASB, the Rural School Alliance, other folks that are there. So she's in regular contact with them so that there's an alignment, if you will, with the things that we are asking for. And my point of saving the money, so for this amount that we pay, a lot of places, you try to have a superintendent do a lot of these same things, and it's just like, they don't have the time to do the data gathering and compiling the documents or the letters that are appropriate to send to our state legislatures that are out there. And I think that's the advantage that we get out of it, that we get a pretty good return on our investment in terms of the advocacy role that SWSA plays in terms of advocating on behalf of the Pewaukee School District and all of the other school districts that are out there. So for, yes, $3,700 may seem like a lot, but it's a good return in terms of, otherwise people are spending a lot of time trying to advocate for things. And there continues to be legislation in Madison. There was just one this morning in the paper related to how frequently school districts can go out and propose recurring referendums. And it's like, whoa, you know, I mean, they want to limit it to every 4 years, and then you can't do it that often, and lots of things like that I think sometimes you just have to be aware of, because we have no other choice. I mean, the only way that we could raise additional funds is to have operating referendums, and fingers crossed, we've not had to do that, but I think in the paper it was like over 200 or some school districts in the last 2 years have had to go out for operating referendums. So, and that takes time and effort on the part of the school district, and that's a lot of investment in terms of that. And if they don't pass, they don't pass. So, and I think that's what we're concerned about.
And SWSA, they're also involved with Day at the Capitol, if I'm not mistaken, which helps to further give school districts a voice in front of legislators.
Did they do anything to push back on the reduction of standards that we just went through in August?
With the changing of those cut scores, Mary, that in the testing that DPI went through. No, SWSA didn't engage with that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
So move to approve the SWSA, or Southeast Wisconsin School Alliance for the 2025-26 school year as presented at a cost of $3,700.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Oppose.
Thank you. Next, moving on to personnel issues. We do have one resignation.
Yes, Berkeley Weimer, first grade teacher, has resigned. I'd seek your approval.
Are we gonna do them separate? Okay.
Yep.
I move to approve the resignation of Berkeley Weimer, first grade teacher at Peely.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have the retirement of Sarah Gull.
So Sarah Gull, Stacy talked about Sarah. She's been our librarian since 2017. Has done a really nice job. Sarah's primary responsibilities have been earlier literacy, so PLE and Horizon. So with gratitude for her service, I would seek your approval of Sarah Gull's retirement.
I reluctantly move to approve the retirement of Sarah Gull, library media specialist at PLE and Horizon.
Second then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And lastly, we do have 3 employments to
Yep, and we
consider.
can take these as a group. Morgan McNally, third grade teacher at Horizon, replacing Katie Adams. Katie Adams moving into a coaching role over there. Owen Lapp, fourth grade teacher. And I'd say both Morgan and Owen were student teachers in our system, so they're very familiar with us, and I'm very excited to actually get paid to do this work here. Replacing Haley Splan, and then Chelsea Roth, limited term special ed teacher. Maggie Gaska's going to be on leave next year, so Chelsea would be covering that for next year on a limited term contract. So I would seek your approval for those 3 employments.
Oh, okay. Move to approve the appointment of Morgan McNally, third grade teacher, Owen Lapp, fourth grade teacher, and Chelsea Roth, limited term special education teacher, all at Horizon Elementary School.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, and let's see, next, review of upcoming activities. July 11th and 12th is the WASB 2025 Summer Learning Symposium. This year, it's not in Green Bay, it's in Stevens Point. I've attended several years. Unfortunately, this year I can't make it, but I'm happy to say Larry is attending. If any others wanted to attend, is that still open, Tammy?
I believe you can still get in.
Okay, so if there's any other interest, there's still that possibility. Monday, July 21st, is our next board meeting. Business Affairs starts at 6 p.m. in the district office. Policy Committee at 6 p.m. in here, and then the board meeting at 7 o'clock. Then Monday, August 18th is our annual meeting. We'll start that evening with the 6 p.m. Business Affairs Committee meeting, a short one, then a short board meeting at 6:30, followed by a budget hearing at 7, and then finally the annual meeting starts at 7:30. Also that morning, on Monday, August 18th, is the new teacher orientation. It goes from 7:30 to 9 in the High School Commons auditorium. It is a chance for us board members to meet our new teachers coming in, to sit down and eat breakfast with them. I love this activity. It is, how else are you gonna meet some of these new teachers, right? Unless you come to this activity, rub shoulders with them. So I just really highly recommend, if at all possible, please do attend. It's such a cool activity. And then Monday, August 25th is our Welcome Back Breakfast, which is in the high school cafeteria, and then the program to follow. And again, just a really neat activity. Mike always does an amazing job with it, welcoming everybody back and just getting everyone excited about the new school year. So please try to attend. Any legislative updates?
Yes, I would like to just kind of make you aware of a little bit of where things are at. The Joint Finance Committee approved and advanced their recommendation to the legislature. So we can provide a little bit of an explanation as to what's included in that. We don't know where it's going to go with in the Senate. There's some in the Senate who just want to turn the whole thing down and just have us not have any new, and in general in the state budget, not to have any new funding and just not approve a new budget. So that's some of the discussion that's going on. I don't know what the governor would do with this. It's historically low level of funding for public K-12. There are some major components, and then, before I, get too out of my lane, and which is probably better in John's lane, talk about a few things. There's the $325 per pupil per year. It's important to know that unlike in the last biennium budget, where there was funding to offset property tax increases, the current recommendation from the Joint Finance Committee would have that entirely on local property taxes as an increase. So there's that piece. There was a very modest increase to special ed funding, which has been a major point of emphasis and advocacy, to 35% in year one, and that's a sum certain, which is an important distinction. Sum sufficient would mean, yes, we're getting 35%. Sum certain means there's a dollar amount that's estimated to be 35%, and if the claims come in higher than that, it's a lower percent, which is highly likely that that's what will happen, because that's historically what's always happened with the some certain kinds of funding. But I think the estimate was 35%, then 37% in year two. And then there was a piece to increase high-cost special ed reimbursements. I want you to understand that that's very minor. That's probably 8 to 10 kids in our entire school district that we would have some additional reimbursement for because of who qualifies for that. So there's one of the more advantageous things would probably be a fairly strong increase in open enrollment, the amount we get for open enrollment students. So that would be something that could lead us to a discussion down the road. Does that affect our approach at all in terms of how many students we accept with potential increase in funding if this is ultimately what gets passed? So those are some of the pieces. John, do you want to talk a little bit more about any of those
Before you
things?
start, John, can I just ask a question? You commented that you didn't know if the Senate would approve it. So are you saying if they don't approve it, what would we have? We don't know.
So the interesting part about the process where it's at right now, so the governor introduces his budget, the budget then goes to the Joint Finance Committee, they're the budget writing committee. They negotiate with the governor's office, and then they come up with a proposal that gets advanced to both houses. If it's changed in the houses, it goes back to the Joint Finance to come up with a budget proposal then that would go on to the governor's desk. So at this point, we heard a little over a week ago that negotiations had broken down, that there wasn't going to be any more talk. About 2 days later, the Joint Finance had an omnibus motion that put a budget proposal on the table, which is what we were referring tonight with this budget proposal. That is in the houses right now. It goes from Senate to Assembly, and they vote on whether or not they can approve what the Joint Finance has put in front of them. If there's modification to it, it could go back then to Joint Finance to write the final bill that goes to the governor's desk. At the same time as the conversation is going on there, there's still negotiations happening between the governor's office and the Joint Finance members on what that proposal will ultimately look like. So there's a couple different conversations going on. We're optimistic that by the deadline, by June 30th, that there will be a proposal in place. When we talked about this like 3 months ago, the perspective was this budget could drag up because of the significant potential for tax decreases or a tax rebate because of the big surplus that's out there, or how is that surplus going to be utilized with one-time funding or funding for ongoing expenses in all the different programs in the state. At one point, it might be the start of the school year before we see a budget bill that's together. More recently, we've heard more and more pressure about let's get this in place and have a budget bill before this one expires. It's our responsibility to have that done. We'll find out in the next week. To put a little context to some of the high-cost special education, like Dr. Katie mentioned, we have about 8 to 10 students in the district who generate enough cost to drive a reimbursement, an eligible claim for that. Think about our entire student population. We have about 12 to 13% of our population is under our students with disabilities that have an IEP. So about 350 students out of 2,800 students, 2,900 students have a plan that has to be funded under law to be able to fund the services that they require. Of that group, 8 to 10, so about 3% of the 13% of our overall population generates costs that can be reimbursed by high cost. This year, our high cost claim, our eligible amount was about $103,000. The reimbursement rate was about 19%. So we got slightly over $19,000 in reimbursement for high cost claims. So that puts context around if you're going to fund it to 50%, 50% for our high cost claims would net us about $30,000 in the context of a $40 million budget. So the bigger push from all the education entities that are advocating for K-12 is spendable resources. So when you talk about the 325 increase to the revenue limit, that's spendable. It's an increase in the amount we have available. Investments in school levy credit or in equalization aid don't change your spendable resources. And neither of those were funded in the joint finance proposal that came forward. No additional dollars went into tax relief that way, leaving the whole $325 increase to the revenue limit to be borne by the local taxpayers. Other than that, there were several other smaller items. The most impactful, like was mentioned, is that open enrollment. We have net positive open enrollment in the district of about 229, 230 students. That number will fluctuate between here and September. And the proposed increase in funding would generate about $1,600 per pupil of additional revenue for us. So pretty significant impact on the resources we would have available in the district.
So that's good news for a district that's net positive.
Yes.
But if you think about that as a policy, there's districts that have net negative open enrollment, and that funding's now leaving. So they're paying, so when open enrollment students leave our district and go somewhere else, we're paying that district to take them. So that'll be a burden for districts that have negative balances there. So we'll keep you posted on that, but that's kind of where things are at. I'm sure there'll be more activity to come, and we'll keep you apprised.
Wow. We're gonna hope for better news. All right, comments from citizens, anything? Thank you, Tammy. Well, that completes our regular portion of our school board meeting. Now, we need to go into closed session to All right, welcome back to those who were joining us via live stream. We're back into open session. And what we have left here is to vote on these considerations for compensation. Can I get a motion?
I think what I would probably do is.
How would we do this, Mike?
We have to add it to each one of them. There's-
Right, I think
Right,
each of the lettered items.
A, B, C.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it just, and I think what you could do is make a motion to approve the compensation recommendation as presented for this group.
All right, I move to, each group, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Each
okay,
group,
I
yeah.
move to approve the compensation recommendation, right?
Yes.
For administrator and confidential support staff. For the
Second.
2025, 26 term, contract term. Can you second, Larry?
you, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain?
Consideration B.
I move to approve the teacher compensation system as presented for the 2025-26 contract year that will provide supplemental pay for all regular full-time and regular part-time professional employees employed by the district, including but not limited to certified full and part-time teachers as defined.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain?
And C.
Finally, I move to approve the compensation for custodians, nurses, food service, paraprofessionals, and secretaries for the 2025-26 school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain?
All right. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks for a good meeting, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
It was good.